Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. I have a very special guest this morning. That's my daughter Leela, who spent the night. We went to the races. And anyway, boy, those cars were going around that track, weren't they? Whoa! Anyway, having a little fun. Mark chapter 9, verse 14. And when they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them, and scribes arguing with them. And immediately all the crowd, when they saw him, were greatly amazed, and ran up to him and greeted him. And he asked them, "What are you arguing about with them?" And someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit that makes him mute. And whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they were not able." And he answered them, "O faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. And when the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood. And it has often cast him into fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." And Jesus said to him, "If you can, all things are possible for one who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said, "I believe, help my unbelief." And when Jesus saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." And after crying out and convulsing him terribly, it came out, and the boy was like a corpse, so that most of them said, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had entered the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast it out?" And he said to them, "This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer." Oh, you ever have a bad one? You ever have a bad demon? A bad one. Not a regular one. A bad one. These disciples could cast out regular demons. Jesus gave them authority and power, and they could cast them out. They couldn't cast this one out. This was a bad demon. He not only made the boy mute and deaf, he would make him have what would look like seizures, I guess, but it also would throw him into fire and water. So he was always trying to kill this boy. And you can just imagine the scene. The disciples are around the boy, all right, and the guy's there, and there's a crowd gathering, see what the disciples would do. Because remember, Jesus and Peter and James and John, they've been up on the mountain. So you got the other 9 disciples down there. And it goes something like this: "Demon, come out!" And nothing would happen. And then Thomas would try, "Demon, demon, get out of there!" And it wouldn't come out. And then Bartholomew, "Come out, demon, come out, demon." I mean, that's something like that. I guess they were all going around taking turns, and nothing was happening. And maybe they all tried together, "Demon, demon, come out. Demon, demon, come out." And nothing was happening. And while I say it that way, kind of make it sound a little humorous, it was not funny at all to this man who brought his son there, because he was counting on these guys doing something. He was counting on it. I'm sure he'd been to doctors and other kind of people that, sorcerers and people like that around, whoever, any kind of priest. He'd been to everybody he could, and there was no help. So he was counting on these guys who had been casting out demons to be able to do the same thing for his son. Well, they weren't able to do it. Now his faith is wavering a little bit. So Jesus comes down, and he sees the commotion, what's going on. So, "Oh, come on, Peter, James, and John, let's go see what's happening." And the guy explains, "Look, they couldn't do it. I brought them to it. Brought my son to them, and they've been trying here for a while, and they can't cast him out." And Jesus says, "Oh, faithless generation." And I think really he's talking there about his own disciples more than anybody. How long am I going to put up with you? Because they should have been able to cast this demon out. Anyway, Jesus cast him out, right? Another side point, the guy says, "Help my unbelief." Jesus says, you say you believe, but you're not sure. And the guy says something like that, "It'll help me unbelief." So, when things have not gone your way for a while, when you've wanted something to happen and it hasn't, it can shake your faith a little, but don't give up. And the guy didn't give up, and I give him credit for that. He said, help my unbelief. He was honest about it. So Jesus casts out the demon. But the important part is what I want to focus on now. When the disciples get him alone, they said, why couldn't we do it? And Jesus said, this kind can only come out by prayer. He said, look, in other words, it doesn't matter how many spiritual gifts you have. Yes, you have the gifts. Yes, you have the ability to cast out demons and the authority. But you didn't pray. If you had prayed, you would have been able to cast him out. And listen, there are things in your life, tough things, bad demons. You're not going to be able to get them out by human strength. You're not even going to be able to get them out by spiritual giftings. You're going to have to go to God in prayer, and not just a one-time prayer, but a lifestyle of prayer, consistent prayer, over and over again. So I want you to think right now of whatever it is, and there's probably one big thing at least that just won't get out of your life, and you've been trying to get it out and it won't come out. Now, I'm not talking about a trial that God is allowing you to go through on purpose to refine your character. I'm talking about some kind of character flaw, weakness, sin, something in your life that you've tried over and over again. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of that thing, and I want you to put it up on the wall, and I want you to put in big capital letters, P-R-A-Y-E-R, prayer, and you can get that thing out of your life. But you got to do it over and over again. I've seen it in my own life, and a lot of you watching have seen it in yours. Don't forget how to do it. That bad demon can only come out by prayer. You come back tomorrow for the next edition of Take 5.